Hey folks, welcome to the Team Roster plugin walkthrough and installation guide. As usual, first thing you're going to do is unzip the plugin zip file. There's going to be a README that you should open up and read, and if you're here you probably already did. There's going to be a plugin file and a remote control panel file. And the first thing you should do is open up your settings, find the plugins editor under the overlay section of the settings. Open that up. You're going to come down here to the bottom left and click import. Find that Team Roster plugin file you just extracted and load it in. It's right here. You don't need to touch anything or edit anything. Click apply and OK. Then next up, we're going to add the remote control component. And it's the same as always. Hit F2 to enter the remote control editor. Down here at the bottom where it says import from library, hit the little arrow, change it to import file. Then import file, find that Team Roster remote control component. Open it up. It's probably going to throw it down the bottom left. I've already got mine over here on the right. So it's just a simple hide and show, and then it has a local iRacing paints folder. We'll come back to that in just a moment. The next thing you're going to want to do is add the style overrides. Those are found in the README file, and you add them here in the overlay section of the settings. Open up those style overrides. Pretty simple and standard for this one. Just a black background, and as usual, make it your own. And then once you've got the styling, the basic styling loaded in, we want to remember to add the initial variable value that hides it. It's also in the README for you to paste in. This just makes sure that every time you open your project file that this overlay gets hidden by default. After that, let's go back to this paints folder. So some of the other plugins, if you have the other ones, they work the same. If you already have a remote control component with this iRacing paints folder, you don't need a second one. But it also won't hurt to have copies of it. They will update each other. You can see I already have one over here for some other stuff. And you want to set this to your local iRacing paints folder path. It's usually in the format of, wherever your My Documents folder is. And then it ends with iRacing/paint. You put the full path in here, no quotes, no spaces, nothing fancy, and that will make sure that your car images are rendering. If they're not, if you're only getting black cars, but a picture of a car is there, but it's not filled with paint, that usually means your folder is incorrect. If you're getting some sort of error where you get kind of like that HTML image load error icon, that means you might have some other issues. The quick fixes for that are to make sure that you have a room name, make sure you are using the first URL for your OBS browser source in this list here, not the local connection one. That one won't be able to host the image renderings for the overlay. Use this first one. If that still doesn't work, double check your instances are all correct, and then sometimes just changing the room name seems to help reset SDK and the browser source in OBS or in the HUD, just to kind of shake it up. That's worked for a few people if you have that issue, but you might not. All right, and that should get you started with the basic overlay. So but before we get into what it looks like, and I want to talk about my recommendation. This is completely optional, but it'll make sure that this works in a more foolproof manner. And that is that you should probably manually create the team rosters. And there's two steps to doing that. The first step is in the settings, find multi-car teams and go in and edit it. And you can see here, I have a whole bunch of teams. I usually just keep one giant list of teams for all of my broadcasts and leagues. They don't usually overlap. Nobody seems to copy the same names or anything like that, so it hasn't been an issue. I do that for my own ease. So I've got a bunch up here that have URLs in. So my recommendation would be to get the best out of this. You want to create all the teams that your league has, and if they have logos, you want to put them in. You can use the same localhost format that you do for other image overrides, and if you're not familiar with that, I'll show you that. So let's take note here. This is kind of like HTTP localhost 8000. That corresponds to, in the settings down here in this web server section in the bottom of the settings, your port corresponds to what that number was in the URL, and then that points to a local folder that you set here. So any images you want to be referenced through that local host URL needs to be in this folder. This folder for me is full of race logos, you know, Daytona 500 logo, league logos, sponsor logos. I like to put everything in here, but I have all my team logos loaded in here as well for the plugin to access. And then you put them in like we just said. And then the second step here is to go into driver overrides. And when you come over to the multi-car team name, what you'll find is that all those teams that you have put into the other list, that multi-car team list, are now available here in a drop-down. And there's a couple reasons I would recommend doing this. So one, I have found drivers misspell their own team names often, and if there's any difference in the team name, it won't group everyone together properly, right? If they put an extra space in, it'll be as if they're in a different team, and they won't get grouped together. You also cannot get the logo for the team to show up unless you assign the team through this dropdown, because that URL and image are assigned in that other settings list of teams. But once you've done that, it's pretty easy from here on out. So let's go over here and take a preview. So if we show it, it's right there. So the way this works is whatever driver you have selected, and right now I have Hammond select, or sorry, Khan here in the 47, it's going to list out every other driver on that team and the driver you're looking at, sort them by current position, list the team name up top, and if there's a logo, show that as well. So let's try, see if we jump over to Craighead in the lead. We can see Skidmark Motorsports is having a pretty great day. All three cars in the top 10. Craighead leading. And what I like to do is usually if I'm in the middle of a race where there's a bit of a lull, as I do kind of a run through the field, I do a version of that where it's a team rundown of like, let's check in on the teams. And so I kind of just run through the list. So Craighead is in first. Next, I'd jump over to second place, Thompson. So he doesn't have a logo entered into the Discord, but his name's still there, and he's a single car team this season. Next up would be Landon with IT and now Esports Group, and it kind of just go through the list. And for any drivers that have none, so if they don't have anything entered in either the driver overrides that you set or in their SDK driver information app, because it will pull team names from there if you don't have them in the overrides. But again, you got to watch out for spelling errors between different drivers to make sure the group. But everyone who doesn't have one also shows up under the team none. That can be an interesting thing to pull up if team play is a big thing going on at like Talladega, and you want to pinpoint the cars that don't have teammates to help them and how they're running, then that none group can be helpful there. But that's pretty much it. You put in the logos, you put in the team list, and then set the overrides. This is one of the simpler plugins, but one I get a lot of use out of, so I hope you do too. Thanks for tuning in, and check out other plugins from the Collateral Damage Sports Network team.